Hi, the Mudbrooker here. Had me a bit of an exciting morning today. Had us a chimney fire. Don't be alarmed, it was minor and was quickly dealt with. That's very seldom the case with a chimney fire. I was up at 5 o'clock this morning. This time of year, that's about 2 hours before sunrise. There's no good reason for it, I was just up. So I set about my normal morning routine, started some coffee, and went into the living room and fired up the wood stove. I've been burning wood my whole life, so getting a fire going only takes me a couple of minutes. Now my chimney is at the end of the kitchen counter. So after I got the fire going, I poured myself a cup of coffee, and I could hear something crackling in the chimney. Shit, that ain't good. There's a clean-out door in my chimney about the same height as the countertop, and about 1.5 feet above that is a cover which blocks off an unused hole for a stovepipe. I pulled the edge of the cover loose so I could see inside. There's creosote piled nearly to the bottom of the hole, and it was on fire. Two thoughts occurred to me. First was, I gotta deal with this quick before it gets out of hand, and second, where in the hell did all that creosote come from? I just cleaned the chimney less than a week ago. More on that later. So, I went to wake up my bride in case I needed help. Normally, waking her up before she's ready is a long and potentially dangerous process, but when I gave her a gentle shake and said, "Honey, get up, we got a chimney fire," she got right out of bed. Okay, with my reinforcement in place, it was time to deal with the fire. Now, before I go any further, I want to make something absolutely clear. In the vast majority of cases, what I did was the absolute worst thing you could possibly do in case of a chimney fire. I'll explain why later, but for now I'll just commit gross hypocrisy and tell you to do as I say and not as I do. Back to the story. I felt the chimney to see if it was getting hot, but it was still cold, so I decided to douse the fire from above. With the missus there to keep an eye on things inside, I went outside to climb up on the roof. I have a steel roof, and the eave where I start my ascent is about 7 feet above my deck, and the chimney is about 15 feet or so from the edge of the roof. Now, a steel roof with a couple inches of snow on it is some damn slippery, and since I got to get up there several times over the winter, I have a knotted rope tied to the chimney for a handhold. I started climbing, made it about halfway up, and the goddamn rope broke. I caught myself before I fell off and managed to scramble my way up to the chimney. It's too bad there isn't any video footage of that. You'd have found it entertaining. I looked like a monkey fucking a basketball. Anyhow, once I was standing safely on the uphill side of the chimney, I dropped 4 or 5 good-sized chunks of ice down the flue, which put the fire out. After coming down off the roof as gracefully as I went up, I went back inside to shovel the now soggy creosote out of the chimney. As I came through the door, I looked at the clock, and it was 5:15. Including the time I spent making coffee and lighting the stove, this whole little incident only took about 15 minutes. After I cleaned out the chimney and finally got some coffee into me, I figured out where all that creosote came from. About a week ago, I had swept the chimney, but before I had a chance to clean out the bottom, I got sidetracked onto some other project and I forgot all about it. So there was a nice dry pile of creosote just waiting for something to come along and set it on fire. Okay, now I'll explain to you why you shouldn't try to put out a chimney fire the same way I did. Most chimney fires are caused by a buildup of creosote in the flue, and that's where the fire starts. With that much surface area, the fire spreads very quickly. Creosote burns intensely hot, somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,000 degrees. So the chimney becomes dangerously hot in a very short time, and most fires aren't discovered until they're well underway. What usually happens is you hear a loud roar coming from the chimney, and you go outside to have a look, and you see a big jet of flame spewing flaming cinders like a volcano. Even if you can get close enough to try and dump a bucket of water down the chimney or spray it with a garden hose, it won't be enough water to put the fire out. But the thermal shock of cold water hitting hot masonry will crack the chimney, and the pressure from the fire will drive the flame through the crack like a blowtorch, and presto, you've turned a chimney fire into a structure fire. Once a chimney fire gets going good, the only thing you can do is call the fire department and hope for the best. In this case, there were 3 very unusual circumstances that were working in my favor. First, while there was a pile of creosote in the bottom, the flue itself was clean, so the fire was confined to the bottom. Second, I found the fire literally within the first minute or two after it started. And third, since the fire was small and barely started, the chimney was still cold. Had the chimney been hot, there's no way in hell I would have tried to put it out the way I did and risk cracking the chimney. The best way to deal with a chimney fire is not to have one in the first place. Keep your chimney clean. If you have a fireplace that only gets used 2 or 3 times a year, you can get away with sweeping the chimney once a year. But if you're burning wood full time, you'll have to sweep it every 4 or 5 weeks during the heating season. Clean any loose creosote out of the bottom every week or so, And have your chimney inspected professionally at least once a year. Have somebody that has the equipment to run a video camera down the flue so that you can actually see what's going on inside the chimney. Well, that's all I got to say on the subject, so quit dicking around on YouTube watching videos and go out and clean your chimney before you burn your house down.